Virginie Likens from Roland Designs, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about threads and colors. As many of you know, I do reproductions of antique embroidery patterns and samplers. And for example, the antique patterns I used were hand painted or printed in the 1800s, and they would have lots of color variation. For example, here you can see there's different shades of pinks and browns, there's greens, and there's grayish browns up here for the leaves. Once I've charted this in my software on the computer, I will then get my color card. Here I have a color card for the MC, and this one is my tool that I go to because it has actual real threads. So I get a pretty good idea of the colors. And what I will do is I will try to match the colors to an existing DMC thread. Now the reason I use DMC is because they have the most reliable and widely available range of colors. As of now they have 500 colors, so it gives you quite a lot to choose from. But it is almost impossible to match perfectly antique patterns, even though they have bright, beautiful colors and DMC has beautiful colors. Exactly, because there's just a difference between the threads and the gouache. So I'll take another example here, the ones here, the rabbits. Here there are many different browns on the picture, and I'll probably get a good match with the color threads, but it might not be exactly as the picture is, and that's okay. Now here's an example of a much larger pattern. This one I have not charted yet. We see some ducks, and in the picture there's lots of different greens and there's lots of color variation in the ducks themselves. A pattern like that at the end might have 50 or more threads recommended. Now it is not something that I expect you to do if you get one of those patterns from me, to go to the shop and buy 50 individual skeins of DMC threads. They're very expensive, they're very good quality, but I don't expect you to do that. And I do have people who write me and say, oh, I cannot get a hold of that color, and that's because not every color is available all around the world. And sometimes there are some colors you cannot get in your country, so you'd have to import it from abroad. So it just gets very expensive. So what should you do? Just use what you already have. You don't need to use exactly the colors I recommend because I'm not even able to match them perfectly. So the colors are used. I'm just guessing or recommending or going with colors that I know and I like. And sometimes it's even hard to know exactly how they will work together. So it is all just guesswork and recommendation, and you can do the same thing. You can also match different threads brands. For example, DMC is very good quality, but maybe you also have some Anchor threads or Venus threads, and those are equally good color fast threads that will hold their shape and look good. So feel free to mix brands. Anchor has slightly more glossy threads than DMC. Venus I don't have so much experience with, but I know they're also highly recommended as good quality threads. So mix and match what you already have, and don't feel bad or look desperately to get the perfect color, because it will not make a huge difference in your embroidery. Your embroidery will be beautiful anyway, however you stitch it. Another thing you can do is, for example, in a picture like that where there's a few flowers and animals with eyes, you can use beads, seed beads for the eyes and the flowers. It will give your picture a little bit of a three-dimensional texture to it. Here's another example. With flowers, you can easily stitch or work the middle of flowers with beads or silk thread. It's very effective also in florals to do part of the flowers in silk threads or synthetic nylon threads, because they have more of a glossy glance to them, and do the leaves in cotton or in wool. There's many different ways you can bring your embroidery a little bit more to life by using different textures and playing a bit with sizes and the glance and the texture, beads and wool and cotton. So just get creative and don't lock yourself to buying all the threads you need for a project. Use what you have, recycle, If you have little bits of threads, use them even if it's just for small detail, so you don't need to feel like you need to keep buying new threads for every project, because maybe you'll just use a few centimeters and never need it again. Another possibility is to use two threads that you have, for example, two greens, a light one and a dark one, and use one thread of each and mix it together to get the middle color. That way you get 3 colors out of 2, and that's an easy and simple way to get extra colors without having to buy the middle color for it. And it also adds, again, a little bit of contrast to your picture. Embroidery should be affordable. You really just need the cloth, a picture or a pattern, a good pair of scissors, these I've had for years, and a few good quality needles. And since it's a hobby that takes a long time, it is cost effective, and it is a hobby that doesn't really damage the environment. There's no plastic, it's only cloth. It's something you don't have to feel guilty about. You don't need a lot of equipment. You keep it very simple, and you can have a hobby that will give you a lot of joy without costing you too much money. There's a little something I will say though, if you're going to buy secondhand threads on the small ads or in the flea markets, there might be a very small color variation, even in the same brands and the same number, because it will depend on the batch, and it will also depend on how they were stored, if they were exposed to sunlight or not. So buy secondhand threads, no problem with that. But if you're going to do a picture where, for example, you're going to have the whole background done in one color, then I will definitely say buy the same number, same batch coloring, and from the same retailer, and at the same time, because you run a risk of having, for example, if you would do a black background, that one thread is just a tiny bit different, and then you'll really see a difference. So that's only for very large areas. Otherwise, you can just get creative with the colors you have. And don't be afraid to mismatch. Like I said, use different types of fibers, and just get creative and enjoy the process. And if you have any tips or tricks for keeping embroidery to an affordable and pleasurable hobby without it costing more than it should, then just put it in the comment and let us know what your tips are. Have a nice day, and I hope you enjoy embroidery as much as I do.